Hello and welcome along to today's lesson, and we're going to continue looking today at Python, and we're going to look at the random module. So last time out we looked at the random module with a list. So here you can see an example of what we did last time. We first of all imported the random module, then we made our list. In this case my list is called colours. I've got the items in a list, each of them separated by commas inside the square brackets, and then finally I've got that random command, print random.choice, and then the brackets is the name of my list, which was colours. Okay, so that's what we did last time. This time we're going to do something a little different, but we are still going to be using the random command. So remember, if we're going to use random commands, we need to import random. When you first load Python, it doesn't have those random commands built in, you have to add it in. So we use the command import random. Remember, import all lowercase, that's why it's going to do a different colour. It's a reserved word, it's got a job. So we need to make sure that we write it correctly. So first line of our code, we are going to write import random. So what are we actually going to do today? Well, today we're going to have a go at making a pair of dice in Python. So let me show you how we're going to do that. So here I've got idle Python, and here we can see the finished code and we can see it run. So there we go, run module, and we can see it runs. It's pick number 2. And I can run it again, number 5. Okay, let's get rid of it so I can go through line by line and talk you through exactly how this code works. So like I said, we're going to use a random command. So we're going to need to import random. So import random, and random is the name of the module, and import means to bring it in. So we're going to bring in that random module. Then we're ready to make our dice. So we're going to make a variable so we can store the value. So the variable needs a name, so we need to give it a sensible name, and as we're making a dice, let's call it dice. In fact, we're going to make dice 1 because you might go on and make dice 2 later on. So I'm going to make it called dice 1. Okay, the dice 1 is equal, so that's an assignment operator. It's going to assign this value to the name dice 1. And here's the random command we're going to use today. It's randoms, they all start with random, and then dot. Random dot, and then the second bit can be different. So last week when we were choosing from a list, it was random dot choice. This week we want a random number, and so it's a portmanteau. It's two words that are being smashed together. So we want rand int. So rand, R-A-N-D, the first bit is short for random, and the int is short for integer. So that's a mathematical word that just means a whole number. So randint is short for random integer. And after that we can put some brackets, and we tell it the lowest number we want it to pick from. So the lowest number on a dice is 1, then a comma, then the highest number we want it to pick from. That's a 6 on a normal 6-sided dice. So we want it to choose between 1 and 6. The lowest number it can choose is 1, the highest number it can choose is 6. And then the final thing we're going to do is we're going to print, and we're going to print our variable. So I'm going to print dice 1. Okay, now dice 1 is the variable name. So when we run through our program, it's going to first of all import the random module, then it's going to make this variable called dice 1, and it's going to choose a random number between 1 and 6. That number, whatever it chooses, gets stored as dice 1. So then when it prints that stored number. So each time I run it, it's going to choose. Oh, we need to save. Now I've made an error. I've got a bit of code here. I've got a misspelling. It says ramdom is not a word. So here I've got an M and not an N. So I've mistyped. So we'll just fix that and run it again. Okay, now we can see we got a 5 that time. We can run again. Right, if you're struggling to see Python, what you can always do is configure idle. So you can configure it here. I'm going to make my text a little bit bigger, so it's just a bit easier to see for everybody. So we can see the code a bit clearer, and you can see my numbers a bit clearer. Hopefully I'm going to move myself as well. Hang on. Ooh. Here we go. I'm on the move. Right, so now when I run module, we can see I get, this time I had a 3, the time before I had a 2. So each time I'm running it, it's picking a new random number, and eventually we'll start to see repeats. So there's 4 and 4, but it randomly chose 4 again. So that's how you would do one dice. So what do I want you to do? Well, I want you to do that. I want you to make one dice. So the step-by-steps there are in our success criteria. This is all part of us having experience of a high-level programming language. In our case, it's Python. So that's our learning intention. But the success criteria kind of guide you through how to make a dice. So the bronze, import the random module into Python. The silver is make a variable and store a random integer. So that was where I did dice1 assignment operator random.randint and then the numbers, and there you've got the code that I've used, random.randint. The gold is to print that variable so you can see what number's been chosen, and then the challenge is to make a second dice and then add their totals together before printing it. Okay, so that's what I want you to do. We of course want to test it once it's finished. This is what your code might look like. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that code. So if you want to pause the screen and watch that code and use that code to help you, you can. You can always rewind to the success criteria. Best of luck, and I'll see you soon. Remember, if you're at home doing this, you can use an online Python interpreter to have a go. You don't have to use idle, so there are ones that you can find online. If you just type in Python online, you'll find something that you can use at home. Best of luck.